Mark II is a pretty new company, founded in 2002, selling and modifying Seiko and ETA-based watches. You can still find Mark II modded watches and parts floating around eBay and sales forums today. Now Mark II sells a few different models of ETA-based tool watches. Today, most of Mark II's watches are produced in more uniform batches with fewer custom pieces. The Sea Fighter I'm reviewing was available as a custom when I ordered it, but is now only sold in limited versions at irregular intervals. Now, this watch came in a nice 3-watch plastic case with 2 screwdrivers. Here's one. An English manual, a warranty card, and some strawberry Mark II candy that I ate a long time ago. When the watch arrived, it was on a black Maritac NATO strap. The bracelet was securely wrapped inside the case. The case and the screwdrivers are a nice bonus, but if I came across a used Mark II that didn't have them, I wouldn't let that be a deal breaker. Now, the Sea Fighter is based on a 1970s Blancpain 50 fathoms, the FF96, issued to West German naval divers. Now, I only know the 50 fathoms from photos and reviews on Watch You Seek, so the only comparison I can make is that the modern watch is a bit thinner than the original, the crown protrudes a bit more, and one thing I think is a significant improvement is the strap or bracelet is secured by screw pins rather than spring bars. The crystal is 2mm double-domed sapphire. It's strong, it minimizes optical distortion. The coin edge bezel is a pretty standard unidirectional 120 click. One interesting detail carried over from the original that I didn't notice until the watch arrived is that the right side of the case is composed of 3 flat planes while the left side curves smoothly. Now, the Sea Fighter is available with a choice of either the ETA 2824 date or 2836 day-date movements. There were several choices of face, hands, and bezel. The case can be found mirror polished or bead blasted. A diamond-like carbon case is coming in a future model, and I've seen at least one on forums with an aftermarket brushed finish. The watch is available on a NATO strap or on rubber or with a bracelet. Anti-reflective coating on the crystal was optional but free. This one has a 24-hour field watch face, elapsed time bezel, Mercedes hands, and black day and date wheels with white writing. The case is bead blasted, as is the bracelet. I wasn't particularly interested in matching any historic watch when I ordered this, so I just chose the options I liked. For instance, I chose the Mercedes handset because it has a lot of exposed metal, and I can't convince myself that fully painted over hands aren't plastic. One of the things I like most about this watch is if you buy a Mark II, you're not paying to advertise their product. It's pretty sterile. There are no big logos on the crown. There's not a short story about the water resistance converted into different units on the face. It doesn't say automatic. I know it's automatic because it isn't ticking. There's a tiny Mark II logo between the 29 and 31 minute markers under the 6 on the face. This case is beautifully bead blasted everywhere. Except for the back, which has the mirror polish the whole case is also available with. As you may be able to see, I've already scratched the case back just from setting the watch on a table with the bracelet installed. If my experience with just this case back is any indication, if I had bought the mirror polished model, it would look like an old kitchen sink within a year. I'm pretty hard on just about everything I own, so we'll see how the blasted finish holds up in the long run. This face is matte black and has a little bit of grain or shimmer if you look at it under direct sunlight. The numbers, hour, and minute markers are printed sharply. The large numbers 1 through 12 and the triangular hour markers are loomed and raised a bit above the face. In terms of brightness now, this loom is really nothing to write home about. Unless you've recently had the watch out in direct sunlight, you're not going to read it in the dark. I'm accustomed to Seiko loom, and there's no real comparison between the two. The 3 o'clock window for the day and date is actually beveled rather than cut straight through, which I think is a nice detail. Now, this bezel turns smoothly, and every single click is absolutely perfect. Because of the depth of the case, I sometimes think it's misaligned, but if I ever lay a straight-edged piece of paper from one marker to its opposite and look at it directly, I can see that it passes exactly through the center and every mark it should. This bezel is a little hard to grip with damp hands, but on the plus side, I haven't accidentally turned it once. I would rate the bezel as easier to grip than the smooth stock bezel on a Seiko 007, but of course not as easy to operate as the incredible Seiko Monster bezel. On paper, this watch sounds pretty big. It's 42 millimeters across, 14 millimeters thick, 49 millimeters lug to lug with 22 millimeter lugs. That's thicker than my orange Monster, about even with the 007. And I was really worried it would look like a giant Flavor Flav clock on my wrist. When I got it, my first impression was that it's watch-sized. It's smaller than a hubcap and bigger than a Sweet Tart. The dull, satiny finish of this watch gives it much less wrist presence than the much shinier but smaller Monster. Other reviewers have mentioned this watch's character completely changes based on strap choice. If you get a blasted Sea Fighter and put it on a bracelet or black rubber, these lugs angle down to match the curve of your wrist, and it's small enough to fit under a sleeve or into a pocket easily. If you get a mirror polished Sea Fighter and you put it on a thick NATO, as I'll show here, it's going to look like you have a lunchbox on your wrist. For reference, I have 7-inch wrists. Now, I live in Japan and collect mostly Seiko and Casio watches. This is my first watch with a hand-winding, hacking Swiss movement. The ETA 2836 movement in this watch is the day-date version of the extremely common 2824 movement. In this watch, it's elaborate grade, which is the second grade of 3. And it's adjusted at the Mark II shop in 6 positions. That'd be crown up, crown down, I believe face down, face up, 12 o'clock up, 12 o'clock down. It's been pretty accurate. Last week it ran about 20 seconds fast for the week. A few days ago, climbing Mount Fuji, it ended up about 3 seconds slow. I prefer it fast, but it's acceptable to me either way. The day and date changed instantly at midnight compared to a Seiko movement where they change gradually over about 5 hours. I'm no watchmaker and this isn't an ETA movement review, so I won't spend much time on it. There are a lot of good ETA 2824 and 2836 reviews out there, including an excellent write-up at Chronometry. If you Google ETA 2824, another little engine that could, you can read all you want to know about the 2824. Let's talk about the bracelet. The bracelet is a simple, straight-ended steel bracelet. It tapers slightly from 22 millimeters at the end to a 20 millimeter fold-over clasp. With the diver's extension. It's not exactly an oyster bracelet because each link moves in relation to the others. There were 3 removable links on each side of the clasp that can be taken out using the screwdrivers included with the watch. The clasp has 3 micro adjustments. I knew when I bought the watch that I had to have the matching bracelet. But honestly, I found it too heavy to wear regularly. The watch head by itself is 99 grams. And with the large gaps between the screw pins and the case, this watch was made for a NATO strap. If you're anything like most of the collectors who buy these watches, you'll probably change straps constantly. The only thing I will say is be careful with the screwdrivers and really take your time. Taking an extra 10 seconds changing straps will save you from an ugly scratch that lasts forever. Overall, the Sea Fighter is elegantly simple in design. It's perfect circles, straight edges, and sharp corners. This watch feels like a machine, not a piece of jewelry or fashion accessory. In execution, this watch is absolutely perfect. There's not a mark, scratch, or piece of lint anywhere on it. The hands line up perfectly, and even at 4 Hertz, the second hand stops exactly on the 12. The bezel stops exactly on and between each minute marker. It's scary to order a fairly expensive item like a mechanical watch online, sight unseen, which is one reason Bill Yao's well-deserved reputation for perfectionism appealed to me. Having a little bit of trouble uploading longer videos to YouTube. I'm going to cut this short, but thank you for your time.